to former Trump White House Communications Director Alyssa Farah Griffin, saying former President Trump often discussed executing people at White House meetings. Speaking with Mediaite on Friday, Griffin highlighted an April interview from former Attorney General Bill Barr, where he was asked if he remembered a time when Trump called for a leaker to be executed. And here's what he told CNN.
Alyssa Farah Griffin, who was Trump's communications director, posted yesterday and said that you were present at a moment when Trump suggested executing the person who leaked information that he went to the White House bunker when those George Floyd protests were happening outside the White House. Do you remember that?
I remember him being very mad about that. I actually don't remember him saying executing, but I wouldn't dispute it. I mean, it doesn't sound. The president would lose his temper and say things like that. I doubt he would have actually carried it out. I don't.
But he would say that on other occasions. You said
the president. The president had I think people sometimes took him too literally, and he would say things like similar to that in occasions to blow off steam. But I wouldn't take him literally every time he did it.
Oh, you mean like he'll get rid of Roe? That's just blowing off steam. Griffin went further, saying Trump had called for executions multiple times.
And Bill Barr kind of danced, like, I don't recall that specific instance, but there were others where he talked about executing people. And I'm like, how you rationalize that is a person fit in sound judgment to be president of the United States. They're reading the tea leaves. They know there's a very real chance he's going to be president again. And there's not a lot of glory or like victory in being right, but being on the wrong side of Trump. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to.
So, Gene, let's get this right. The Attorney General of the United States heard the Commander-in-Chief calling for the execution of staff members.
Yeah.
And then when he is asked about it, after he's made clear that he is going to endorse for president the man who's calling for the execution of staff members, because I guess Barr is shocked and stunned by Joe Biden's student debt relief plan. That's where they always run to. Oh, well, if you think January 6th was bad and calling for the execution of staff members are bad, what about Joe Biden's 3-tier plan to relieve students of their debt, which they actually do. They actually, that's their go-to. You think January 6th was bad. But here we have a guy who's attorney general, a lawyer. And I just tell you, lawyers, I'm not even a good lawyer, but you get lawyers in conversations, they remember things. They have a dictaphone going in. They've got it going in their heads. And you hear something like that, you are trained for your mind to set that apart. Okay, the President of the United States just said we should execute staffers for leaking.
Yeah.
I mean, what Barr says is so laughable, and what Alyssa said is so chilling that we actually have Republicans, so scary. We actually have Republicans that are going to go out and endorse a guy who called for the execution of fellow staff members and then claims he doesn't remember it.
Yeah, I don't specifically remember that, but I won't deny it, right? I wouldn't say that I won't say that he didn't call for execution of staffers, because that's the sort of thing he did, right? That's the sort of thing he said. This is insane, right? I mean, step back for a second. We're talking about the President of the United States talking about how members of his staff should be executed for leaking information that he didn't want leaked, which was not national security information or anything. It's just something that he thinks is embarrassing to him. Absolutely unprecedented and insane, and we shouldn't, like a lot of things that Trump is saying now. We shouldn't just sort of walk past it and say, as Bill Barr said, oh, well, people are taking him too literally. Well, I'm sorry, but that's like the only way I know how to take people, right? I mean, I can't, when you say I want to execute that person, and you're the president of the United States, I have to take you literally when you stand in front of a rally in Las Vegas and talk about, boats and electrocution and sharks. I have to take you literally. I don't know how to take it otherwise. This is a person who was elected president of the United States and who has a chance of being elected again. That should cause all of us to just to step back and think for a minute. This is not normal, and this is not acceptable or safe for the country.
Joe, Mika, I want to just think about it this way. Let's the most charitable interpretation of what Bill Barr is saying here, right, is something like the president of the United States on a regular basis would blow off steam. I think that was his phrase, right? Yeah, he would get mad. Right. And he would say things around the table like, let's imagine saying something like, not, I want to have this leaker found and executed. But let's imagine he's just blowing off steam. He's saying, if we could find that leaker, I'd like to take him out of the back of the White House on the South Lawn and have him shot. And let's say he wasn't being serious. Let's just say he was blowing off steam, right? As a matter of presidential temperament, is that the guy you want to have behind as the commander-in-chief, sitting in the Oval Office, a guy who, when he's frustrated, when he's blowing off steam, again, to use Barr's formulation, is someone whose way in which he exercises his frustration is to casually talk about having people who work for him shot, executed in some way. Well, I don't know if that's by hanging or by a guillotine or by the firing squad. I think it speaks to a temperament that is the kind of temperament that leads you to a president of the United States who, when your vice president is on Capitol Hill in the middle of a riot that you have incited, and the people at that riot are talking about lynching the vice president, your temperament, that person, that president is the kind of person who says, I'm not going to do anything to call off the mob that I incited. I'm just going to sit up here and let it play out. And I'm going to say quietly, according to at least some of the reporting that we've seen in some Capitol Hill, some stuff from the January 6th committee was said, maybe our supporters have it right here. Maybe Mike Pence deserves this. Maybe he deserves to be killed, to be strung up on the Capitol grounds. I think, whether you don't have to get all the way to Donald Trump was ordering the execution of staffers to think that this is a very dangerous temperament and a very dangerous mindset to have, and one that shows an enormous lack of respect for the office, for the seriousness of the position, and as someone who is not in control of himself in a way that you would want a president to be.
But let's put this all in context, because you are right. When Donald Trump got the riot going on January 6th, as Lindsey Graham and as Kevin McCarthy said, he was responsible for these riots. Not only did he not call off the attackers when they were saying hang Mike Pence, not only did he tell staffers, according to their testimony, that maybe Mike Pence deserved hanging, he put out a tweet at a perilous time, which put Mike Pence in even more danger. He decided to do that. And Mika, these comments that we're now finding out that, again, that Barr's claiming he doesn't remember, you have to put these in proper context, too. This is a guy running for re-election in 2024, running to be president of the United States again in 2024, who has said the chairman of the Joint Chiefs needs to be executed, has had his lawyers argue he can execute political opponents with SEAL Team 6 and can't be charged criminally, who has talked about finding media companies guilty of treason, gelling them, has called for the immediate arrest of his political opponents. And we keep hearing it from his people. We heard it again this weekend from his people that anybody who opposes Trump's opponents need to be jailed. So this wasn't just one stray comment 5 years ago. This is active. It's ongoing. And because he is so craven, to be, I guess, relevant. The former Attorney General of the United States is willing to go along for the ride.
Well, and your point is well taken. It is definitely well documented that there are really scary tendencies on the part of this former president. But even if anybody said something like that in jest or to blow off steam, in any situation, if it happened on the front porch of your house or if you said it on the show, it would be off-putting. It would be striking. People would think something was wrong with you.
For a president to say it in the Oval Office, talking about it, and for a guy who talks about executing political opponents and generals, it is relevant. It is to be taken literally.